welcome to Brand X Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about a book that I came across about a year and a half ago. I found it very interesting. It covers the action movie genre, which, as I've said recently, is something that we've been focusing on this channel for a long time, pretty much since the beginning. I think Rambo was one of the first video series that I covered on this channel back in 2013. The direction that we're taking with this channel is the action genre, and this book kind of covers that by its own interpretation. What I mean by that is it's got its own slant on what an action star is. Now, some very much disagree with the direction that this book took. I'll show you the book. Some of my friends have seen this. I've mentioned it before to them and they've wanted to know more. Kind of hence the point of this video, really. It's by David J. Moore. It's called The Good, the Tough, and the Deadly. There's actually a movie called The Tough and the Deadly as well, which is mentioned in this. I kind of think that they borrowed from the title there. But going back to what I was saying, the way that this book addresses the action film star, not necessarily the genre, but the star, is more based on the greater body of the actor's work and also what they brought to their career as an action star prior to even being in their first movie, and also keeping in shape ever since. You could maybe say somebody like Steven Seagal might be an exception to that. Not knocking Seagal for putting on weight. I understand he had health issues and so on as well. But there's different strengths with all this. So the way that it works, a quintessential action movie to a lot of people is Die Hard. That's not mentioned in this in the same context. It's mentioned, but it's not one of the main ones that's kind of indexed in there, because Bruce Willis was just, and well, that was kind of the point of the character, really. He was the everyman, just a really tough everyman. But he didn't come to that film having been a martial artist or a bodybuilder or any kind of sportsman. He was an actor. He was in a kind of sitcom type show called Moonlighting. He was famous for that. So it was kind of a new direction for him to do something like Die Hard. That's just one example. There's plenty of other examples as well. Somebody like Kurt Russell, for example, he's done loads of like really good, high, like top tier action movies, but he wouldn't be classed as an action star in this context. I mean, he's an action star, but not in this context. He's not presented in here as an action star because he was an actor that kind of had one foot in the action movie genre. So you can kind of see where they're coming from in this sense. There's always arguments that you can have one way or the other. But overall, somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger was a bodybuilder. He was already hugely famous before he started doing movies. Somebody like Stallone, although he was an actor, he was more of a big guy, like a heavy in every movie, every role that he did almost, before he came into doing like the Rocky films and so on. And the greater body of his work is action movies. He's done the odd ones that weren't action movies. You can say, well, what about that? Those are more kind of blips. Whereas someone like Mel Gibson doing a film that's like a rom-com or it's like a spy thriller or whatever, or a sci-fi film, those aren't blips in his career. He's got a broad range of movies. Action was just one of them. Lethal Weapon, you'd say, well, how can it not include Lethal Weapon? Well, there you go. That's one of the, again, a top tier action movie, but that doesn't represent the greater body of Mel Gibson's work. That's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is what it is, and that's how this book addresses that. So it's not for everybody. Some people are going to think that it's not got Die Hard in, that means that this book's a load of shit. Well, it covers this in the introduction, but if they did that, then this book would just be in like 12 volumes, because you'd have to have every single movie where a gun is drawn out of anger or somebody throws a punch, because therefore it's an action movie by definition, even though it's not. Could be different people have different interpretations, basically. So let's look at this book anyway, because I know I've kind of been rambling a little bit. Does that make sense? Let me know what your thoughts on that are in the comments or whatever, and we can always start a conversation about it. So the book, they say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I don't know what's going on with the cover of this. Well, I do. I think if they put Stallone on there, he would probably sue them for using his likeness. So you've kind of got like an Expendables version of this Stallone character. Is it Barney Ross? But it's clearly not Stallone in the face. Then again, you've got a kind of Rambo character here. Looks a lot like Terry Crews. Then you've just got some kind of, is that a generic Asian woman, or is that supposed to be somebody in particular? I think it's supposed to be generic, just like the Stallone face is kind of generic rather than being Stallone's face. So the book mentions that it covers action movies and stars 1960s to present. Now the genre, the golden era for action movies was more 80s and 90s, which is what most of this book gets into, just because there were a lot of films coming out around about then. This book, I think it came out around about 2018, so it says to present. It only came up to 2018, and not that there's been like a huge amount of stuff since then as well to make a big difference, but just so you know. Now, I believe this film has about 1,500 movies that are reviewed in this, and it's reviewed in quite an interesting way as well. You've got a number of different contributors to the thing. In fact, I've just conveniently just flipped onto the exact page I needed. So it talks about the reviews itself, so it'll give you an idea. So each film uses this as a sample here. So it'll say the film Predator. It has the year. It has, in initials, it's got, is it DJM on there? Is that what it's saying? Yeah, the initials, but in DJM, that just means it was reviewed by David J. Moore, the author of the book. He doesn't do all the reviews, but as an example, that one would have been. It says the year it was released, 1987, and it also says the studio that distributed the movie. So in Predator's case, it was Fox. So those kind of interesting bits of information are featured with each one. In fact, I'll give you a closer look now at the book, because if I'm holding it up, I can't really see what I'm showing you. So let's have a closer look. So this is the book here. I've just put it next to this so that when I open this, it's not going to break the spine of the book. So, the actual book itself, here's the list of contents. Fairly straightforward book, to be fair. There's not much to show you, unless I was going to go through the whole thing page by page. So you've got a foreword by Craig R. Baxley. The introduction is quite interesting. This is the thing that Viking Samurai used in part for his video essay. It wasn't ripping it off. It was just going through. It was reading it out just to tell you what the theme of the book is. It does a pretty good job, to be fair. So the introduction's not too long. Then there's about the reviews, as I say. So that's generally what you get for each one. This is kind of given as a sample. That's not a review of Predator. These are reviews on this side. So there you go. You've got the name of the film, the year of release, the distribution company. Ignore the fact. I think the fact that it says DVD. I think that's the format that the person who did the review, in this case David J. Moore, hence DJM, watched the film on. I think that's what it means anyway. So you can kind of see how it works, and each letter for every title, obviously you've got them all here. Now, I'll just kind of flick through it, just so you can see content-wise. A lot of times it'll show posters. Some movies will prompt an interview. So, for example, it might be that it's got to a point in the book where it's mentioning a film where they managed to get an interview with either an actor or the director or whatever, and you'll get some pretty good content there as well. So in that sense, it's very interesting, and you can kind of see, I mean, I think there's like 1,500 movies that are mentioned in this, and when we're getting to the end of the book, I'll just pause this. So when you get to the end of the list of movies, you then come to the section where you have the index of actors. If I can just get the page open. So the index of action stars, and then it gets into them. So you can kind of see how that's laid out. So you'll have the actor's name, the titles that are reviewed. It doesn't have a complete filmography list, but it mentions for each actor the movie that is covered in this book. So as you can see, guys like Scott Adkins, I talked about him in a previous video on this channel. That's a list of his movies that are on there, and it kind of picks up there as well. So there's quite a lot of pages that cover those, and also there'll be like a little biography as well of the actor, just kind of saying who they were and how old they were. And then finally at the end of it, you've got the list of movie reviews in alphabetical order. Obviously, if you're going through the book, this is what you're getting in alphabetical order. So we don't need to know what page these are on. You can just find them in the same order that they're mentioned on here. But you can just see the number of films that are mentioned in this. As I say, I think it was like 1,500. I've missed a page as well. So there's more there, more there. Just absolutely incredible. It's like almost like a phone book for movies, for action movies. So there you go. Now this is a book that came to my attention from a channel called Viking Samurai. I've mentioned that channel many times before. Just like a really good one. He gets a lot of good interviews and he's got a really good understanding of the action film genre. And the guy that's on there also started doing movies himself, so I wish him the best of luck. But yeah, he did a video about this a couple of years ago. I think it was about 2023. If you're looking for it, probably his video is a lot better than mine. It's like a video essay, and it's called "What is an Action Star?" I think that's the title of the video. So look up "What is an Action Star?" Viking Samurai, and you'll see a lot better video than the one that I've done here. Whereas my video is just kind of showing you more what you get with this book, because it's quite expensive. Well, it's not expensive for what it is. I mean, you'd expect to pay about £25, £30, something like this. I think that's what I got it for about 18 months ago. And it is a very good one. I'm really glad that I got it. So, because I say that, some books you buy them, you don't really look at them, especially when you're paying a lot for them. Some are hit and miss. But this one, you can just pick it up and just kind of look something up. If there's any movies that you're thinking of getting, for example, I have a guy who sends me, I pay for them obviously, sends me pirate movies, old movies. I wouldn't normally advocate for video piracy, but these are ones that you cannot buy. You cannot get hold of them. They're out of print, they're all on streaming, old martial arts movies and so on. So some of them are mentioned in this book. So I'll check out his list, cross-reference it with this book, and if it sounds good, I'll probably go ahead. There's other things you can do, like look trailers up on YouTube as well, obviously. But this book's quite handy because the guy who wrote this has got a pretty good understanding, and his knowledge is good, but his opinions are quite sound as well as some of the other reviewers in there too. So it's a good resource to have anyway. So, as I say, on this channel, Brand X Reviews, ever since we started, we've been talking about the action film genre, but it was always one of the things that we talked about. We're really going to make that the main theme of this channel. We're still going to talk about other things as and when, but the action film genre, when people say, what is this channel about? I can now mainly say, officially, it is mainly about action movies, specifically 70s, 80s, and 90s. But we also cover things before that and after that as well. So, has any of this interested you? Have you got any thoughts on this? Does it sound like the kind of thing that would be up your street? Do you agree with the angle that this book has taken in terms of covering action stars that maybe fit a certain description and excluding ones that don't fit that description? It is an interesting take on things. I never really thought about it until I picked this book up. So check it out anyway. And yeah, I'll just say thank you very much for watching. You can like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you.